Chapter 9. Today's task for Wen's team was to try and get a handle on where Martin Grimes was and what his state of mind was like. Wen and Cassie had made an appointment to see Martin's mother, while Becky and Richard would interview the local mental health team who worked with Martin. As Wen's car pulled up in front of Mrs. Grimes' house in Appleton, Cassie whistled.
"Whoa, that's what I call a house."
The double-fronted Georgian-style property was modern and immaculate.
"This is £1 million in bricks and mortar,"
Cassie continued as she got out the car.
"Imagine being able to afford something like this."
Lovely was about all Wen could muster. What people owned had never impressed her, but maybe that's because she'd never needed to worry about money. The front door was open before they'd even got halfway along the path. Mrs. Grimes was about 5 feet, 6 inches tall. She was wearing a beautiful baby blue cashmere dress, and dark bobbed hair framed her small, eager face. She wasn't what Cassie had expected at all.
"Welcome, detectives."
She stood back, allowing them to enter her vast hall.
"Let's go through to the drawing room."
She carefully shut her front door. It was hard to put an accurate age to her, but going by the age of her son, she was probably mid to late 50s.
"Can I get you something to drink?"
"No, thank you, Mrs. Grimes."
"Laura, please."
"Laura, we've come to talk to you about Martin. I believe you're worried about him," asked Wen as she took a seat.
"Of course I'm worried about him. He's my son. He has mental health problems and he's gone missing." "When did you see him last, Laura?" asked Cassie. 3 days ago. He's gone missing before, of course." "Yes, so we believe." Wen looked at her notes. "It was 2 years ago, wasn't it?" "That's right."
Laura sat neatly on one of the huge settees.
"And 2 years before that as well. Martin is nothing if not predictable."
Wen looked at the woman.
"If you don't mind me saying, you don't look that upset."
Laura pinched her dress into a pleat.
"I put on a brave face. If I don't, I'll start cracking up as well."
Cassie took a seat opposite her. "Does Martin have many friends, Laura?"
"I don't encourage it,"
said Laura. "Why ever not?" asked Wen.
"It never ends well. He starts to depend on people. They always let him down eventually. And then guess who has to pick up all the pieces?"
"Where's Martin's father?" said Cassie.
"Oh, he left years ago. Typical man. Couldn't cope when Martin had one of his episodes. Just as well, really. I think if he'd stayed, either Martin or I would have killed him by now."
Cassie and Wen looked up. "That's rather drastic, Laura," remarked Wen.
"You wouldn't say that if you'd known him," Laura replied. "He had issues as well and could be very violent. He often hit me, but he never touched Martin." "So what made him leave?" Cassie leaned forward. "Martin. The day he tried to protect me changed everything."
"How? In what way?" Wen realised that they were now talking very quietly, almost reverently to each other.
"The thing about children, officer, is that they grow up. One day Martin got between me and his father. He was just about to stick a knife between Philip's ribs when I stopped him. So Philip had to go, because if he hadn't, then I think Martin would have killed him rather than let him hurt me again."
"In the past, when Martin has disappeared, where's he turned up?" Cassie asked as she made notes in her book.
"Last time he was found by the police, walking along the road in the wrong direction, barefoot and in the pouring rain. The time before was when he set the school on fire. The police picked him up at the scene."
"And the suicide attempts?"
Laura laughed.
"Suicide attempts?"
"Those weren't suicide attempts. They were, what would you say, a cry for help. My son doesn't want to kill himself. He just wants to make me suffer. And believe me, he is succeeding.
Cassie and Wen left the house with Martin's toothbrush and a photograph. The toothbrush would give them the DNA and hopefully prove that the male victim, now lying in the morgue, wasn't Martin Grimes. Becky and Richard sat down in front of the psychiatrist's desk. Dr. Sarah Nesbitt was sitting opposite, looking at them over her spectacles, her fingers linked together.
Becky thought that if she were asked to give a description of a typical psychiatrist, this one would be perfect. Greying hair, tied back, nondescript clothes, and no makeup.
She had a superior look about her, and Becky hoped that she was more empathetic with her patients than she appeared to be with her.
But hey, maybe she just didn't like the police. So, said Dr. Nesbitt, how can I help you?
We're here because we believe you have treated Martin Grimes in the past, said Becky.
Yes, that's correct. Is Martin in some sort of trouble?
What made you suppose that? Richard asked.
Well, I'm presuming you're not here just for a chat.
We're actually trying to eliminate him from a serious crime. Richard's tone was clipped.
Oh dear, I knew this would happen sooner or later.
Becky leaned forward. You knew what would happen sooner or later?
I knew Martin would do something catastrophic. It wasn't so much if, more when.
She sat back in her seat and looked at the ceiling.
You think he has the capabilities to do something that bad? Richard asked. I know he has. He's a very disturbed man. Then why isn't he contained in a facility somewhere if he's that much of a risk?
Richard couldn't keep the disbelief from his voice.
Dr. Nesbitt sighed. Because we can't just put people away on a hunch, even if it is backed up by medical knowledge. When Martin set the school on fire, he was sectioned for 12 months. He was sectioned again when he harmed himself, but for less time. Once he's settled and compliant with his medication, we've got no reason to keep him in.
Richard sat back in his seat and folded his arms.
He has to do something terrible before he can be stopped. Is that what you're saying? That's exactly what I'm saying. Just like you when you know someone's broken the law but you can't prove it. Dr. Nesbitt folded her own arms as if to say, game, set and match.
Richard strode away from the clinic, shoulders rigid, then wrenched the car door open, dropped into the driver's seat and slammed the door with a bang. Want me to drive? Becky asked. No, why would I want you to drive? Because you're in a bad mood. I am not in a bad mood, Richard barked.
He backed out of his parking space sharply, then stopped as metal crunched on metal. Oh, fuck!
Richard hit the steering wheel and watched the angry driver behind him grow larger in his wing mirror as he walked towards them.